The following is an excerpt from one of our lead designers of the MacuMist supplement. We had a lot of questions about how nano-sized products are made, and I wanted to read to you some things that he wrote so you can get a better understanding. The first step in making a nano-sized product is to do a literature review of all the proposed ingredients. While anything can be nano-sized, there's many ingredients that really shouldn't be nano-sized for safety consideration. As nanosizing reduces the size of material into the true quantum realms of physics, the properties of different materials can change drastically from what's experienced in the macro form. The next step after approval of the ingredients is to source from an ultra-pure source. This source must be at least pharmaceutical grade to even be considered to be used for the nanosizing. The two grades normally used are pharmaceutical grade and research grade. The commercial or industrial or even food grade material is simply too contaminated to use for nanosizing. The sourcing of pure materials not only saves money because there's less material to achieve results, but it is more premium and more valuable as a whole. The material usually comes in a powder form that's approximately 5 microns in size or around 5,000 nanometers. To meet the scientific definition of nano-sized material, the size must be between 1 and 100 nanometers in size. Here are some factors that determine the final target size of our product. First, the size and shape of the molecule of interest. For organic or botanical ingredients, the size and shape of the molecule is the deciding factor for the target size. To maintain the efficacy of the molecule, that molecule must stay intact. If you go too small and you break the molecule into something totally different than what you started with, you don't know what you're going to end up with. The shape of the molecule is important as well. You can have a molecule that's only 5 nanometers in diameter, but 250 nanometers in length, almost like a straw. If that molecule is reduced below the length of 250 nanometers, you no longer have the starting ingredient. What you end up with then is at best a guess and very difficult to determine and measure. Next, the purpose of the ingredient also is a factor in determining the optimized size. Which body system or organ is the target determines the size of the molecule that can be ingested by the cells of that system or organ. Do you want that ingredient to stay in the bloodstream or go to a specific organ is all based on the final size of the molecule. Next, we look at economics. That's also a big factor. The smaller the size of the molecule requires more process time and associated labor cost. Does this cost justify the smaller size that may be optimum, or will a larger size that's still effective reduce the processing cost for the intended customer base? And next we look at the molecular weight of the molecule of interest and the associated charges with them. There's two primary factors to be considered. One are van der Waals forces and the zeta potential. Van der Waals forces are what cause the nano-sized solutions to aggregate and fall out of the suspension. The zeta potential are the forces that keep the nano-sized particles apart. These two forces are always present in any nano-sized suspension, and the goal is to balance them out. If we have too large of a van der Waals force, the solution falls out and you can't achieve a stable formula. If we have too great a zeta potential, you can't get a concentration large enough to be effective. This must be calculated for every molecule in the formula. Based on the purpose of the formula, determination is then made of what value for each of those forces should be to reach the goals of the formula. The zeta potential, for example, is checked while the material is being processed. Whole botanicals aren't suitable for nanosizing due to most of the plant being unusable for the stated purpose. For example, cellulose and other fibers don't contain the active ingredients that give the plant its healing qualities. The nano-sized particle is then held in suspension by a small cluster of water molecules. Starting with ultra-pure water, which is 18 millimoles or better, the saturation rate is calculated using the parameters of the molecules in the formula, such as the size, molecular weight, shape, etc. This is the theoretical maximum amount of material the water will hold before becoming unstable. This amount is then compared to the literature to see if the formula is going to be effective for its intended purpose. The process of nanosizing these ingredients is done by focused ultrasonic equipment. While there's a lot of different ways to nanosize different materials, the use of ultrasonic waves allows the greatest control of both the energies being inputted to the formula and the final shape of the molecule of interest. The control factors of temperature and exposure time to the sonic waves are critical and must be monitored constantly during the processing. The time of processing is calculated and then verified by producing a small bench test to verify the process time and size parameters. And after this material finally reaches its target size, then the encapsulating material is introduced. This material varies depending on the characteristics that's desired with a given formula. There are normally 3 different lipids that are used to create these 3 layers around the molecules. There can be as many as 7 different lipids used, creating 7 entirely different layers for specific organ targeting. The addition of the lipid layer increases the overall diameter of the nano-sized particle. And since this particle is sized to target before that process, by the time the molecule reaches the target, it's the correct size to be effective. And lastly, after the final size determination is made, the formula is mixed with antibacterial and stabilizers that are required by the ruling governing body of that country. Flavor is added, and then the formula is bottled per the customer's specifications. As you can see, making a truly nano-sized formulation is not only tricky, it's also expensive, time-consuming, and very specific on how it needs to be created. Using a supplement like this is so much different than taking a simple capsule, pill, or powder. There's just so much more involved. It's not even in the same class. And for these reasons and many more, we'll hope you'll love our product. Thanks for listening. Have a great day.